Today in Deaf Studies, there is two perspectives of deaf identity, Big D and Little d. For someone who identifies with Big D means they are involved with deaf culture, deaf pride, and many grow up going to a deaf institute. For someone who identifies with Little d means they view their deafness as a disability of losing their hearing. They usually speak and maybe go to an oral school growing up. Today with technology, the divide between these two groups are more noticeable. There is the Big D group and there is the Little d group. Before there was only deaf institutes and hearing schools, neither of them socialized with one another, and it was easier to separate the two groups. But now with more technology and the internet, there is more interaction. Now we notice the similarities with each other, but also our differences. That means if I was deaf and another person was deaf, we're similar, but my idea of deaf isn't the same as theirs. That makes me want to separate myself from them, labeling myself as I'm Big D and you're Little d, or I'm Little d and you're Big D, to make space between us. The divide between Big D and Little d causes a lot of problems for the deaf community. I may not fit in with Big D or Little d. If so, where do I stand? The separation of Big D and Little d does have many problems, but understand it does have some benefits. One problem is otherization. ASL is a big role in deaf culture. Does this mean people who don't know sign language aren't culturally deaf? The second problem is racial profiling. That means from all the diversity of deaf people, people who are deaf of deaf are superior, are automatically given opportunities such as jobs, schools, and social opportunities. And the rest are ignored because their parents chose for them, which limited them. They don't know other world's only one, either signing deaf or non-signing deaf. The third problem is binary poles. Human nature loves to create separations and opposites, such as deaf and not deaf, signing and not signing, Big D and Little d, and last, big versus small. That causes the deaf community to create problems and labels. Big D versus Little d causes a lot of problems, but has one benefit. If there was no separation, people would look at deaf as disabled. A group without no culture. The separation shows Big D has culture and is set as a minority group. It shows that deaf people can be successful without an implant or speech. Today we need to understand better the diversity in the deaf world. We do this by seeing similarities in the deaf world, and also in other minorities. For example, in black culture there is a phrase called Oreo, which is a black person whose personality seems white. There is no inner shift socializing with other black people. The inner shift is when someone changes how they behave around someone depending on who they are talking to. Using standard English, they judge for not being black enough. This is similar to Jane K. Fernandez. She ran for president at Gallaudet University. She was judged for not being deaf enough because she grew up oral and learned to sign later in life. She learned to sign but preferred to speak, which is her linguistic choice. Which means if you didn't grow up in the deaf world using ASL and went to a deaf institute, you can't join the deaf community. The limits make identity seem as though there is no opportunity to change. We know that identity doesn't stay the same. It changes with situations and experiences. That is how identity is processed. This doesn't only apply to the deaf world, but also to other minority groups. There are so many different identities. Deaf has many different meanings. When we confront other minority groups and label them with stereotypes, we need to throw away the labels. Understand and analyze them, not label them. Understand their experience, understand their identity.